works. Slightly different setup. I'm in the yellows, so that should be high enough. I'll keep moving my head over here so I stay in the camera. Yeah, okay. Seems to be working. And as usual, I'll keep my eye over there. So, let's go ahead and talk about how I got this little cross-section fin rendered yesterday, or Tuesday I should say. How did I do that? So I have this file set up. Basically for me, you can do start groups with Booleans. So we basically just select one of these and this little bent arrow right here, you can choose that and that'll do a new start group. And basically wherever you have a start group and then you have another start group, say down here, and then as you continue to add start groups, it'll do all the Boolean operations underneath that start group until it sees another start group. Alternatively, you can also use folders for that. Super useful. I like using folders just because it keeps my brain a little bit a little easier on my brain. So basically I have the skin. We have the skin Boolean. So this is blobby skin, and then there's the deflated skin. In fact, let's go ahead and turn everything off and let's go through this one by one. So you, and you. So we're just using these three right now. We'll go ahead and go into Skin Shader 4. And you're going to see this skin shader, this blob or this block is colored the same as these two objects. So if I take this one away and we go in here to live Boolean, so as soon as I turn that on, you're not going to see anything because this Boolean is cutting out the inside. It's basically this deflated, so deformation inflate at a negative value, and that'll kind of put a smaller version of this on the inside. And then when I do this one, turn this eyeball on, you're going to see this cuts through. So if I touch this one or I select this one and go into polyframe, now we can see, okay, that's where this Boolean is. This Boolean is skin colored, and let's see if I can... you'll see what this does. So basically, if I turn polyframe off, we can't see it anymore, but it's still there. It's a live Boolean. So you're seeing the effect of this outer shell. Here's the inner shell creating a Boolean, and then here's the one cutting this in half. And you can kind of see it actually gets a little bit sharp right there. If we hit D for dynamic, it doesn't do anything. Why? Let's see. Oh, because it actually has a real subdivision here. And now we have, oops. So we have a real subdivision here. Let's go ahead and hit Control D one more time, and now we got a nice smooth cut through here. And now you can see the reason why I had to kind of go through and move stuff is if I go through and just use my move brush here, I can pull this in and pull this out. So I can move this live Boolean around, and really all I'm doing is moving this object around, and it's cutting through different parts of these two other Booleans. So that's how I kind of moved it into place to cut this corner, and then kind of move this around to get through the arm here, and then the bend of the leg. Once you're done with all that, because it's all in a folder, you can go in here and you can say, you can Boolean the folder, or you can Boolean the folder with dynamic subdivisions. We didn't have dynamic subdivisions, so we can just say Boolean the folder. That'll turn your folder, give it a second. I think, did it do it? Did it do anything? We have live Boolean on, say Boolean folder. Let's close all these down. And then those are just extras. Turn everything else off. Yeah, what's going on with this? Oh, have the folder selected, then we say Boolean folder. Same thing with merge folder. Let's see, Boolean folder. And it should spit out a Boolean right at the bottom here. And it says it's remeshing it. It just doesn't seem to be doing anything. Hello, J21A. That's interesting. Well, let's see if we can do this. Let's go down here to Boolean, make Boolean mesh. Okay, that goes through and does it for visible, so it is doing it. I just don't understand why it's not Boolean the folder. So basically what it should be doing is if I go down here and I say insert this little UMesh result, and I'm going to take this and just put it outside of the folder. Are these actually in the folder now that I think about it? Oh, I was on the wrong folder. I forgot I had fin all in here. Oh boy. So let me see. I'm going to take the body up out of this folder. This is my fault. Dummy. I'm dummy. Okay, so there wasn't a folder there. That was the fin folder. So all these guys here. Man, I already messed this up. Here's what we can do. Let's say delete all. off to a good Thursday start. Let's go back in here and let's see if I can actually look at my folders first. So these are my folders, and I never put, here's the skull folder. I never put the skin into a folder. So let's go ahead and do that, because a fin folder here has fin stuff in it. That's the outer body here. So these three are just kind of sitting here. There was no folder to Boolean. Let's hit Control F and we'll call this body. And I'm going to take these in here now and put them in. There we go. Now we have the body folder. So if I go ahead and turn everything else off and then turn these back on. And then let's turn off all this stuff too. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Now we're back where we started. We have a folder for the body now. So now when I go in here and say, hey, you, Boolean that folder, it's going to turn the folder off because I have a folder now. Boop, put that U mesh right out here, and then I can just collapse that folder. So now we have a U mesh for this object, and it really is just, you know, the Dynamesh we had, and we didn't have to stick with the Dynamesh. We could have ZRemesh this, and you had dynamic subdivisions, and then a Boolean through here. But this is fine. We're just going to throw it into Keyshot. So one down, a couple more to go, and I'm just going to keep these just sitting out here. So same thing for the fin folder here. So if I turn this one on, let's go ahead and turn, let's see, turn these on. So there's my fin folder on. I'm going to turn the body off, the skull off, and then the rest of these off. Let's see if I can't. Come on, turn all this off. So shift to turn these eyeballs off. And then I guess I got to go through here. I wonder if there's a visibility option in here. Show all objects. So we hold down shift and turn these on. It's going to turn everything on. All right, anyway. So here's the fin result. I don't have the body in here, the skin part, because the skin part is contained with this object here. So I'm not going to worry about that. There you go. There's the skin kind of showing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So this is going to be the result of fin. And the reason why I want to have the fin body separate is I want to put a skin shader on that when I go to render. So we've got gray filling this. We've just basically, I went through the original, which I guess I can load up. Fin cross section. Actually, all I got to do to show you the original is just go back down here and turn this one off. That's the Boolean. So here's the original minus the skin parts. And, you know, you just alt tap one of these and you go in here to color, fill object, and you pick a color and you fill the verts on that object. Make sure you have RGB turned on in your brush. And that's about it. And then when we go through here and we say, okay, Boolean, this folder, there may be, oops, a slight issue. So I didn't have any Booleans on here. So we're going to go, this just did a U union for all these because they're all union meshes. So go ahead and delete that. And then we'll turn this back on. So now we can see, and the cutting object here is gray. So when I go through here and light Boolean, it's going to leave a gray section right here, which is exactly what I want. And then I'm going to go back up here to the folder and we're going to say Boolean that folder. There we go. Now it did, because this is just a really simple mesh here, if I just choose this one, this is all this retained as polypaints, all these verts retained as polypaints, but this is a very simple mesh and it made a very, you see how much space is in between these verts. So this vert right here has green and this vert right here has gray, and between those it does a gradient, so you're getting this result. Easy to fix. That Boolean has its own poly group, so just Control Shift click that Boolean. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to tap C on my keyboard to sample that gray. Go in here to color, make sure RGB is on. Color, fill object, Control Shift tap to bring everything else back, and there we go. If I did want to have, oh, here's a good example. So here you can see, oh, it doesn't have the dynamic subdivision example. So it's all faceted, right? Well, we know how to fix that. So here, if we go in here back to the folder, and here's our folder, you see how it's nice and smooth. Just remember, because we do have dynamic subdivisions on here, we can go in here to Boolean folder with dynamic subdivisions. Boom, there we go. And then there's our result. Again, we can just collapse that folder. Here's our Boolean mesh. C to sample, Control Alt F to fill, and there we go. Once all that is done, here, let's go get rid of that U mesh there. And I'm just going to move this here, Booleans. So we've gone through every folder, and this last part down here, these I didn't need a Boolean. These I just want hanging out separately, just because I want to be able to have these as separate objects when I go to render. So here we go. Oh, we got one small issue here. We got this bone here I need to go through and I can just hit C to sample this, and then go ahead and grab just this polygroup for the cutting Boolean surface. Control-Alt-F is my hotkey for fill. There we go. And there we go. We got this whole thing. And now we can just hop into our renderer, which this morning we're going to be using Keyshot. So render, external render, Keyshot, turn off auto merge. You don't have to do that probably. That's just a habit. And then we'll just hop in there. Woo! Seco pasa. Yes, this is live. Believe it or not. So here we go. We're in the renderer now. And you know what? You know what? Let's try this. Let's go in here to, we'll turn on GPU. We're on a 3090 this morning. So we'll see. That did something weird, didn't it? Huh, that's interesting. I'll have to figure out why that's the case. But basically, so I'm going to hop into CPU mode real quick just so I can show you some stuff. So for example, we talked about the skin shader. So I'm going to go double click on this little body over here. We're going to go into scene. That's selecting the skin object. And then if I go into the material section, we got a material graph. Here we go. And I always go into the cloud library here and download. So you just go into the cloud library. There's environments, backplates, textures, all sorts of cool stuff in here you can grab. And I just grabbed this translucent human skin JB. So instead of dragging it, so this skin doesn't have any real poly paint that I need to worry about, but what can happen is, for example, I take this plastic here, hard, shiny plastic, and just apply it to this object. Hard, shiny, I say white plastic here, and I just apply this object. It's going to kill my poly paint. You can say Alt to retain your textures, like so, and drop it on there, and that'll go ahead and retain your textures. But there may be, if I go in here to material graph now, there may be some other stuff in that material. In this case, it's perfect. We have our texture map, which is actually, if you double click this node, and we'll upgrade a new node here, and we'll just get rid of this one. If you see this one, you can see we have an apply matte cap. If we turn that off, it'll get rid of that matte cap gray we sent over. And then you can also control your brightness contrast. And this is the vertex color. So when you were poly painting, that's applying RGB values to your polygons or your verts. And then it's sending it over here as color information. And that is what this node contains. So in this case, it works perfectly. We just basically changed whatever ZBrush sent over to a plastic material. And that's being pumped out to the surface. And I think we're in good shape. So the only thing I'm going to do is the diffuse is being controlled by my verts. The specular is set to white, that's fine. Roughness, we can drag this over just a little bit just to see 8.07 or something like that, just so we don't get like super shiny plastic over here. And that's one way to do it. For the skin here, if I was to do that with the translucent skin, I hold down Alt to retain the poly paint and then drop it over here. Let's see what that does. Let's go into my material graph here. Yeah, it got rid of some of the original, and actually in this case it doesn't really matter because I didn't really need it, but it got rid of some bump textures that came with that material. It kept my poly paint, but it got rid of the bump. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and I'll show you. So you double click this, go into material graph. So here's the default ZBrush, what it's sent over. So again, double click this, upgrade to new node. We'll go ahead and get rid of this one. We can go ahead and turn off apply matte cap. That'll get rid of that matte cap gray. And then we have an advanced here. If you wanted to make this plastic, you can just go over here and make it plastic. But we're going to make it translucent skin. So I'm going to drag all this in. So here's, instead of advanced, we want to do translucent skin. Instead of this texture map that it has, that kind of peach looking, I'm going to go in here to the matte cap, my vert color, and plug that in to the texture. And then we're going to take this and apply it to our surface of our object, and then this advanced we just get rid of. So now we have translucent skin over here. For this, I'm going to say, this controls the so see how big that bump is? So the texture map over here, that frog leather skin, we'll set this to like, I don't know, 0.2. And then for this leather skin, we'll put this to 0.2 as well. And in this case, we probably don't even need it. It's probably a little overkill. I don't know that they're doing much in this case because I want this to be nice and smooth, but still get that translucency. But anyway, there it is. And then you can set this translucency to like, I don't know, 10. And you can see the results happening. If you want to, we can take the surface down as well. So this is, let's see. this is just white, and then we can go over here and we can kind of drop this down, and now you can kind of tone down that, kind of mix the surface with the vertex color here. And boy, that is a heavy, let's see. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, another thing you may want to do is go in here to lighting and say at least a product render to get you a little more accurate on how that SSS is going to go. Also, let's go in here to environment. I think I was playing around with like this apartment, if I remember correctly from the videos. Although let's get something real bright. So here you're going to see, okay, here he is standing outside. If I hold down Control and click, you can go over here and you can put the sun, you know, behind, and you can start seeing that translucency kick in. So you can do that, but we'll hop over to the apartment. I mean, you can do the same thing here if you put him with his back against the window with the light coming in. There you go. So that's the skin part, and then the rest of the stuff, if you know, I got a bunch of bones in here, so let's go ahead and swing this light around, and let's say environment. We'll just pop in a color for that environment here. Oops, not the background, sorry. That's, go here to environment. This is the HDRI editor, which is kind of cool. You can go in here and you can add, here's a really cool thing. So you can set highlights in here. You can just say, hey, I want to highlight on my object. You can click this little button, and then you can say right down here, it says Control left mouse click. So you can set a highlight like right here on the right side of the brain, and it'll put a highlight right in here. And then you can actually move the highlight around with your left mouse button, if that's cool to you, but I don't really need that. So I'm going to hop out of HDRI editor, go in here to settings, and this is where I want to set this to just a plain color here. So we still have our image lighting our object, we just have a color background. So now for these bones, well, first thing, let's go ahead and name these just to keep us sane. So here's our skin, and then I'm going to double click this, and here's our fin. And then for our bones here, you can do the same thing. You can double click this one, go into material graph and save your colors. But honestly, I don't care really that much about this particular color. So in this case, I might just go into plastic, hard, shiny. In this case, it was just going to drag this right on here. So we got blue bones, but I'm going to take this and we're going to make it a slight yellow. Well, maybe a little darker here. And that'll be our bones material. So I'm going to say, okay, we'll name it bones, maybe bump that roughness up, and then I'm going to assign this to multiple objects so I can tune these at the same time. So if I go down here to my materials, here's my bones. I'm going to drag and drop this to my bones, and then to my bones, and then to some more bones. Oops, did I not get it? There it is. So basically, as I'm doing this, you're seeing materials disappear out of my materials section here, because I'm replacing all of this. And again, there's no specific polypan on any of these, so I can just literally have a bone material just apply it. Here's the skull. Although I am overriding white on those teeth on the skull, so if I want to maintain those, in this case, what I'd need to do is go in here and say material graph. And here's, okay, here's another thing we can do. You'll be able to see this real well, but again, I'm going to double click this. We want to keep the poly paint, so upgrade to new node, get rid of this one. Here, undo apply matte cap, change advance to just plastic. And one thing you need to watch out for, it's going to change your specular to black. Just change that to white, and then dial in, you know. So that's another way to kind of change, keep your poly paint, but change the overall material. So we've got all the bones changed, and then for the brains, again, just I don't care about the brains there too much, so I'm just going to overwrite it, put in a nice pink color, maybe a little more roughness. And then for the guts, you can keep your poly paint exact same way that we explained earlier. Let's go ahead and do the lungs real quick. You know what, we'll just overwrite these lungs. Nope, I want a new material for that. And here you can see the lungs. Actually, there's probably some good examples here of, let's right click this and say isolate solo mode S. There we go. So see how this reflection is really aliased and kind of nasty? I didn't bring it over with enough resolution, but that doesn't mean to go into ZBrush and subdivide it and send over 1 million polygons. All you got to do is right click here, go to edit normals and say calculate vertex normals, hit apply, and that'll go ahead and smooth that out. So anytime you have kind of, yeah, like this intestine right here, go into scene, select it, right click, edit normals, say calculate, hit apply, and you can change that angle if you want to. And now you get a nice smooth mesh. So that's really good for like glass and stuff like that. But anyway, we can go in here and we can say, what can we say? That was kind of a this color-ish. Maybe it's kind of a bluish pink, right? Something like that. Maybe a little less saturated. Yeah, good enough. So now go in here, we'll change that roughness a little bit. And there's, you know, you can go and hop into the material graph if you wanted to add like a little bit of, what do we got in here? We got noise fractal. So here's a noise fractal we can use to break up our diffuse. So I can go in here to utilities and I can say, is it color composite, color adjust? I guess we can pump this into, oops, source background, source alpha, I think is what I want in here. And this we don't want. And this can go into our diffuse. So now I think this is like when you're in Substance Painter and you want to do a gradient hue. Source alpha, background alpha. So here we have the source. So we'll go ahead and say again, kind of maybe this color, and then kind of maybe a slightly different color. And then we can kind of blend between those two colors to kind of give it a little bit of a kind of a breaking up that color. I think that's how that would work. And if we go in here and we say, you know what, let's hop into textures and what would be a good one? Like vertical wood, cellular. Let's go in here to cellular and we can I swap these? Yeah. Because I think what I want to do is make this one black and make this one white. And then pump that into the bump. And then when we go into the material here, we can go into textures, and now we have the cellular, and you can actually just right click in here and just add all this stuff in here as well. You don't have to be in the material here, and then we can go through here and change the scale of it or whatever, just to kind of, you know, break up that surface. Although, boy, that is contrast you want to. And in fact, if we want to just see this, that is preview color C. There we go. So now you can actually see what you're doing. So here's more contrast, here's less contrast, and I'm seeing if there's like a noise levels, shape, contrast, blur, square. I don't know, any number of nodes you want to plug in here. That's probably not the best one, but anyway, you can use that as a way to, let's get out of here, to kind of dial those in. So we got all that. You're going to go through, you're going to do all that, and eventually you're going to have it all set up. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. And again, as usual, I apologize if I get behind a little bit. Cool. I'm doing good. I don't think these environments are new. They've been in Keyshot 11 for, or most of the Keyshots I've used for a while. If you know Substance and Marmoset, why'd you render Keyshot? Because by the time I got all this stuff into Marmoset or Substance, I would have to do a little bit more work, and I am the laziest man alive. So just dragging and dropping, and I'm done. I'm already done with all this, and especially when I'm done with the live stream, I got 35 minutes before I have to go to work, and I have to edit a sizzle video, put music to it, export it out, post to social media, do my YouTube thumbnails, any sort of marketing stuff I want to put it on ArtStation. That all adds up. So it's easy for me just to hit a button. It hops right into Keyshot. I can drag and drop materials. And if I want to render this thing, go in here to environment. Again, we'll just put it on a colored environment over here. And then I can go into render. And I want to say, okay, still image. Let's go ahead and say, if you want to cut out the background PNG with alpha, you can go in here to layer passes. Say you want a clown pass and an ambient occlusion pass. Yeah, I think that's about right. You can go in here to image and go ahead and choose a preset or whatever, but I just need the guy, so we'll go ahead and say render. And one thing I did want to try out, and it should render pretty quick. And I'm on a completely new setup this morning, which is why I might have to go into some settings here. Oh, I have GPU on. Oh, another thing too is under image, denoise is turned on. Okay, and okay, GPU is turned on. So here we are rendering with the CPU, which is our Threadripper. Here's our GPU, which is our 3090. Cool, renders pretty fast. And then that's why the render was acting a little bit weird. I don't usually render through the GPU, so render. Oops, just render it. Boop, 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 boop. Getting it there. And done, but noisy. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna dump. I'm gonna say render. Let me look at these settings here. Default real-time view, 64 default queue output. That should work okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so and then of course once you hop into Photoshop or your image editor of choice, you can comp all your layers together. That's the other good point, Rory. Also, I don't have to worry about, like you say, UVs or anything like that. It's just is what it is. Hey, John, you can add specific textures in Keyshot without UV work, text and grime, etc. Yes, that's a good point. Let me see if I remember how to do that, because I've only done it once. It's just kind of messing around. But there's good tutorials online for that. Okay, so I'm going to renderings. You know what? You know what's a lifesaver? The Void Tools Everything app. Because boy, you can just find everything. Let's say open path, Keyshot 11, renderings. I'm just going to dump this into my quick access there. Boom, perfect. Sorry about that, everybody. Oh, here's another thing too. If you're confused about anything I'm doing, probably you can find the answer here on ArtStation or here on YouTube. Check it out. Now, we have, I'm on my renderings now, and I'm going to have an EXR file for the AO. I used to have a program to bring stuff in, but I think I just, let me see, view details, date modified. There we go. So if I drag in, here's the PNG for just his body. Here's the clown pass that just allows me to kind of go through and select individual things if I want to adjust them separately, like his skin. And then here's the AO, and this is going to be a 32-bit AO. So if I go in here to image mode, you see it's 32-bit, we'll say 8 bits, don't merge, Control A, Control C, and I'm just going to paste this right over here. We're going to set this one to multiply, and then the clown pass, we'll just dump this in here as a clown pass. So now, if I get rid of these, there we go. So, so for example, this AO pass we have here, I maybe want to put a levels on there. So I'm going to put the levels on there, Alt click between these to link it. And then for just this AO, we can say, you know what, I don't want it. I don't want that muddy AO. I want to kind of just dial that back so it's just in the really deep recesses. Also, I don't want it affecting my skin that much. So I can just call this one, this is going to be, this will be fine. So I'm going to call this one AO, and then maybe I want to duplicate this AO, and maybe I want to even duplicate, oops, this levels here. So now we've got here and here, and this will be our skin AO. So for our clown pass, we want to select where our skin is. I'm going to go ahead and say, we can select by color range, or just use your magic wand tool here, and that's actually probably decent. So there's all of our red for our skin here, and we're working on a very low resolution image, so it's going to be kind of aliased, but I think we'll be okay. So there's our skin. So with our skin selected, I'm going to go in here to Skin AO, and I'm going to say make this a this little thing right here, which is called a vector mask. And then I can control click that vector mask to get that again, control shift I to invert that. I think, yeah, sorry, crop was still popping up here. And we're going to go down here and we're going to set this one to be everything else. Oh man, did I have some weird settings? Camera, depth of field, stereo, lens settings. No, I'm just working at a very low resolution image. Sorry, I transferred everything over, and there was some stuff I didn't have. But anyway, so he's fuzzy because he's low res. But I think you'll get the point. So here's our skin AO. It just affects our skin. And then here's the rest of our AO of our character, and it affects everything else. And then here's our character itself. So our skin AO, for example, we have levels already set. We can also go ahead and add maybe a hue sat to this. We can say colorize, and now this skin AO can be a different color. So let's go ahead and make this little kind of a reddy red. And then for the levels here, so here we're getting rid of some of that mud, and then we can even go in here to skin AO and we can just drop the opacity down if you don't need the AO that heavy in the skin areas. Anyway, long story short, that's one way to go through and kind of dial in your fin look. For example, I can also pause this so I can let my machine rest for a second. And that's how I rendered fin. Oh man, how's my back already going? Standing up is hard work. Oh yeah, we were going to talk about, texturing. That was done. Ooh, let's see. I watched it on YouTube. And it's basically you can go through and you can paint on labels, I want to say. Oh man, I really don't remember. It was Keyshot. Using labels. Damn. All right. Fine. There is a specific. Oh, there it is. So this one here, basically how to go through and set up so that you can go through and just kind of paint dirt and grime, like so. So you can literally just go through and paint stuff on. I really don't remember how to do it. It's pretty cool though, and I don't really need it for this, but you can definitely check that out. All right, so we've got all that. Kill Keyshot, don't need it, and we're gonna go hop back in here, and I guess we'll go ahead and what should I do with this? We'll go ahead and I'm gonna do an Ecorche that'll also help us kind of fix this problem, which is the head kind of going way back here. When Finn, it's gonna sound weird, when Finn takes her shirt off, Adventure Time. Let's see if this puts me on any list somewhere. Oh, yeah, okay, this is interesting. So when his hat is on, it still follows his body here, but you can see when he doesn't have it on, he actually does have a neck and a round head. So that's something I don't have represented here. But what we can do is we can go ahead and say we'll turn all these cross sections off. And I don't need the skin. So, yeah, there we go. So, and also we don't need this result here, which are U-mesh merged. Actually, I need the entire skull. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here to load tool. We're going to drop back before we had a Boolean folder. And I'm going to say, let's go down and find our skull. Oh, actually we had it. Forgot. We were non-destructive here. If I go back into the skull, you're going to see here's the original skull pieces, and then here's the U-mesh. I'll just go ahead and delete this. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and delete it. We can get it back. I'm going to turn this one off. So now we have our whole skull. So if we wanted to do an Ecorche, there's a couple things I need to do. We got this whole arm here. You know what? We'll go ahead and merge the hand and the arm together. That won't hurt anything. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld across the x-axis here. And then same thing for the leg. Like I said, we'll go ahead and say the leg and the foot together again. I don't think we need those separate. And then a quick mirror. So deformation, mirror, geometry, modify, topology, mirror, and weld across the x. Make sure LSIM is turned off. And now we've got our bones in here. So, hold up. Get my reference. And today's reference will be sorry, yesterday was super hectic. Some stuff happened that I had to rearrange some things, and that's why I'm kind of a little out of my element here. Let me move this around carefully. Okay, basically, let's see if this is even still working. Yeah, we're still there. There we go. There's our guy. One of them anyway. And we'll go ahead and put him over here to keep me honest. Yes, ZBrush. Oh, thank you, Wads. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some muscles to this guy. Bunch of different ways we can do that, and we'll go ahead and cover them. Why not? So, eyeballs, I don't think we really need. So we're going to go through and add muscles to here. So one thing we can do is we can go in here to say merge visible. It's going to merge everything in our scene. Append that merged result. Here's our merged result here. And now I have a go into solo mode. Here's everything we were looking at all as one piece. So if I want to kind of lay muscles on top of things, what I can do is I can say, let's go in here and I'm just going to turn off our polypaint here just so we don't get confused with colors. And I'm going to say, crank up this Dynamesh resolution. We'll Dynamesh this result. And now all of this will be just one solid mesh piece. So if I go through here and start smoothing, you see these are all stuck together. We can go in here to polyframe. That's the result. We basically just voxelize this mesh. I'm going to change this resolution down quite a bit. I'm not sure what resolution I'm working at. This is like arbitrary resolution from a decade ago. There we go. So now that we have all this, I can go through here to deformation inflate and just kind of pump this up a little bit. And you can start seeing it's closing some of those gaps. And in fact, if I want to close all these gaps, go into move brush, turn on backface masking, which is underneath brush, auto masking, backface. I have a hotkey for it and a little indicator right here that it's on. So if I go to my standard brush, you can see it's off and I don't even need this open. I can say, oh, standard brush, I want backface masking turned on. Hit my hotkey, it'll turn it on. Hit my hotkey, it'll turn it off. Go to move brush, it's on. Hotkey, turn it off and on. So just a little indicator is all I need. So if my move brush is ever acting weird, I can look over here and go, oh, backface masking is on. I can also use auto masking topological and change this range down a little bit so I can just grab just these rib parts and not get so much, although not doing such a great job there. But basically you can go through here and you can start closing in these gaps with backface masking on. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld. Teeth don't really matter in this case because those are separate, on another subtool, and then turn on X symmetry. So that way, again, if I want to go through and start putting chest muscles on here, I don't have to worry about it falling through the ribs. Or if I want to just extract something, I'm just removing some of that possibility here. So also an okay way, and not a great way, but an okay way to make things airtight, kind of. Actually, probably not. In fact, speaking of, it's like, okay, we got this going and we go through here and smooth this out. If you do truly want like a skin wrapped around here, one cool way to do it, if you're one of them cool people like me, we have this object here. I'm going to go in here to, I don't think a ton of people use, which is this remesh. We have X symmetry, so we're going to go keep that on. Which, you know, for the guts, those aren't symmetrical, but the things we're putting on top are. And again, I'm not putting muscles directly on guts, so we're fine. Remesh, the resolution is here. The polish I'm going to turn down to maybe 5, and then resolution 128 I think will be fine. So we'll hit remesh all. That's going to look and evaluate at every visible subtool and then put a skin around it. And then with this skin, which is put right here, if you didn't like it, just delete it and remesh again. But now with the skin selected, I can go through here and I can say I'll show you where it is here. Project all, and so it's going to project it back to every visible subtool. And then you can just, like, you know, subdivide and then project all. If it's not projecting out quite as much as you want, you can do a little more distance and then hit project all, and it'll grab some more. And then again, subdivide, project, subdivide, project. You can also use history project, but we don't have any history stored, so that's not going to work that good. But anyway, yeah, that's... Oh, and also make sure, let's do a quick mirror. Multiple subdivision, delete lower. Mirror, mirror and weld, X symmetry turned on. You can also, if you needed to clean this up, you could go in here to BP, BZ, Z project brush, or if you were using history, BH, history recall. Both very cool. Both of those you can look up on my YouTube channel and get the deep dive. And by deep dive, I mean like it's like a 5-minute video. It's not, it's crazy. It's not nuts or anything. So now we're going to go in here to inflate just a little bit here. Control drag. If we turn on Dynamesh, there we go. So now we've got a nice skin around our bones that we can put stuff on. And we don't have to worry about, you know, things falling through. Oh, you know what I need to do? Smooth brush modifiers. Ah, I knew it. Weighted smooth mode. So in this version of the ZBrush that I'm using on this machine, my weighted smooth mode isn't on by default, which I like to have on for my smooth brush. So I'm going to change that. Hold down Shift. So I've got my smooth brush, right? Hold down Shift, change weighted smooth mode to 1. With Shift held down still, brush, save as. I'm going to throw that into Pixelogic. I'll show you in just a second. ZBrush 2022. Z data. Here's my brush presets, Control C, Control V. Not to be confused with another brush presets I'll show you in a second. So here's a copy of it just in case, because these brush presets in Z data are the ones that load up with ZBrush by default. So now I can go in here and I can find the smooth brush, which is this one, Smooth ZBP. Double click it, say replace it. Yes, so now every time I start up ZBrush, the default smooth brush will have weighted smooth mode set to 1. Now, not to be confused with, if I go in here to brush, oh, you know what, I didn't even notice. Hold on, 2022, ZBrushes. See, I got a bunch of Z, so in this folder, I got a bunch of brushes in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these, copy them, and then we're gonna go in here and we're going to say in ZBrushes, paste these, boop, boop, beep, beep, beep. Let it finish. And in this folder, this is where if you go in here to hit the comma key and go in the light box and you scroll back, you're going to see, oh, here's all those brush folders we just had. However, if I go back to ZBrushes, okay. If I go back here to Z Startup brush presets, these are little extras. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these out of here. And we're going to go to, again, Z Startup brush presets, not Z Data, but Z Startup. So now when I dump those in here, every time I start up ZBrush, those will show up in this little brush area here. So those are the differences. In fact, let's go ahead and do a quick save, because I use those brushes a lot. And we'll go ahead and dump out, and we'll jump back in, and we'll load up our file. For all intents and purposes, it just started, Chris. We did a little bit of rendering from Tuesday's stream. Speaking of, if you want to see that, if you go in here to playlists, there's a big blue genie in here, and here's the playlist for all. So this is Tuesday's live stream that I did on Pixelogic's channel, but it's also here. Let me link it. Alrighty. You. And you know what? Probably this one I'll just go ahead and dump on ArtStation too. I think it's, I don't put everything on there, but anything that has like, hey, after a couple live streams, I have something that is coherent and cohesive that I can put into an image, and then people can easily find it. That's what I'll do. So we did a quick save, so I'm gonna hit comma key, go in here to quick save, and then just double click it. There we go. Now we're back where we started, and when I hit B, I got a bunch of other cool brushes I can pull from. And I already have hotkeys assigned because that's already saved in another folder. So, all right, so if we want to start sculpting muscle on this little guy, first, let's change this to a red so we can kind of tell the difference between these two objects here. And honestly, we don't need to do that. We can actually keep this white, go back to our startup material. And then, in fact, instead of maybe inflating, let's do a deflate. So we're kind of pushing this goop underneath everything. So it'll get a little squirrely around the hands, but that's okay. Anywhere where it kind of collapses in on itself, it'll get a little bit sharp. But again, if you need to chew those away, you can hold down Shift, go in here to activate Sculptors Pro, and like hands and feet, we're not going to be sculpting muscles on, so we'll just go ahead and drag this out. So now let's talk about reference. A real easy one is just to go in here. Oh, you know what? I don't have my file for, I don't need it, but I wanted to show it. Okay, that's okay. Well, maybe I do. I'll look. So we have this here. So I hit the comic key to go to my live box. We're going to go in here to Tools, and we're going to grab this anatomy model out of here, and we can just use this as reference, just to make this look, just to make this a little bit easier, maybe. Yeah, it'd be kind of a pain, wouldn't it? Just to differentiate a little bit. So here's the bone selected. We can go ahead and just make this like a bones color. So I'm going to say Control F, and there's my bony landmarks, and then here is our muscles, and then there's some fat on there. Fat deposits, which I don't think we'll need for fin. Let's go ahead and take this one, and we'll just turn this off. Okay, so now we have muscles and bony landmarks. So if I want to, I can actually just store an image over here. So if we know we're going to be working like in this area, you could actually, this is an interesting one, go in here to Preferences, Thumbnail, nope, not Thumbnail, Cam View, turn that on. You can actually cycle through these. You can make your own cam view, so you can see there's like bones in there. So this one might be fun. If we go in here to, God, when was that introduced? I don't know. Let's just go in here to cam view and see. Preparing Ecorche model for cam view. So you can see in this video here, we basically created an Ecorche model and threw it up here as our cam view, so that as we're tumbling our camera, this thing will update with this muscle reference. So that's another thing you can do. So check that out. We won't be doing that though. But anyway, you can go through here and you can say Shift S. That'll stamp that onto the or the document. And then we'll hop back over here to our little guy. And then we can use this as reference. Of course, you can just have an image reference open, or like we got our little guy here. Okay, so I guess we'll go top down here. So we'll go back to white. And now we have just geometry sitting under here. So that's good for this type of stuff. So we go in here to clay buildup. Let's see. I'm gonna turn this, that's probably fun. Tap L to turn lazy radius off, maybe. That'll work. So now you can just go through here and you can just start building up muscle in areas. Oh, another reference we gotta use. Zygote body, hop in there. So if we're just doing bones and muscles, I'm going to switch to this little 2 dots over here, and that gives me my little sliders. And then we've already done our guts, so we don't need the nervous system or the brains or the hearts or the intestines or even the ligaments. So we just need bones and muscle, and we don't need skin. So we'll dial all this back, and now we have all this. So if I want to see anything in particular, like what does this pec do? You can grab that pec, and you can see, oh, okay, that's where it goes. And how does it attach to the bone? Just dial these muscles back, and there you go. Now you can see exactly how and where it attaches to the bone. We're not going to, I mean, we're not going to be doing this is fin, right? We're not going to do a crazy accurate model. It just needs to be kind of dialed in a little bit. So we'll relax. We'll put in, and again, this is also cool too, so I can click on it and go Temporalis just to check myself. I think I knew that was a Temporalis, but boy, my brain mornings not necessarily compatible every morning, and today is no exception. So we can go ahead and dial this back, and now we have a temporalis muscle. Now it's not separate, so if I wanted to pop this off into its own thing, a couple different ways I can do it. One is I can just duplicate this off, and then we can just mask where this is, like so. So now you can see, okay, there's my duplicate, and here's this. It's all one poly group here, so if I hit Control W, oops, Control W, we can pop this into its own poly group. We can say delete hidden, close holes. I like to do a quick mirror and weld just for fun. W, Control tap here. You can Control drag out, give yourself a little edge ring on here. In fact, if you want to get real fancy, you can say Control Shift click this, Control Shift X to expand. Get rid of this one by Control Shift clicking, Control W. Now you have polygroups everywhere. Now you can go into deformation, polish by features, and just drag that up. In fact, we can just tap open circle to really polish the hell out of this. And now we have a nice polished object. I mean, it's pretty crusty geometry, so we'll do a ZRemesh half, adapt the size down to 0, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0 because they're already smooth. And there we go. Now we have nice brand new geometry. That's where our temporalis is. And this duplicate we don't need anymore, so we can just delete that off. So of course you can build up as much as you want, and then you got a nice temporalis sitting here. That's brand new geometry. You can use that for armor. You can use that for whatever the hell you want. And in fact, if I want to, I can say, you know what, let's crease PG. That's under your polygroup menu or your crease menu. So go down here, geometry, crease, somewhere in here. See how I want to use this menu because I don't feel like looking for it, and I use it all the time. And then you can go in here and say, you know, crease level of 2, mix with your dynamic smooth subdiv of 3 here. And again, if I'm saying a bunch of stuff you don't understand, pause the video and go, okay, crease, dynamic subdiv, and then you can just hop right in here and go, what the hell is dynamic subdiv? There you go, dynamic subdivisions increasing. Oh my God, there's a whole video on exactly what I'm talking about. So if I go out of this mode, you can see I'm basically allowing those creases to take over, get a nice kind of smooth crease along here, and I can dial that in to get sharper and more fall off. If I don't need that, I can just hit Control W, make it all one poly group. I could do uncrease all, and then you didn't have to make it all one poly group. You could have just uncreased all and kept your poly groups. But so now we got a nice little blob sitting here. It's like nice. And if you want to put a little texture on here, go back in your clay buildup brush so you can see how the temporalis. And again, Zygote body may or may not have great. I also got, so what we're going to be making today, this is from Scott Eaton's, he did an Ecorche of Houdon. And so we're going to be using this. We're just going to match this pose eventually. You know, we're going to dial some muscles on there. So the flow of the muscles. And you know what? Let me see if I do have it. I'm just going to cross my fingers real quick. Give me a sec. Oh, hell. I do. Check it out. Check it out. Male skull, head and neck. Date modified. Skull, muscles and fat. Boom. All right. All right. Now we got some reference. Okay, so speaking of Scott Eaton, as I was taking that class, I put together, I had some scan data that I used to kind of deconstruct back. So here's some fat. Let's go ahead and turn on our polygroups here. So here's all the muscles, here's the fat, and then here's the actual head, which I need to turn on his head there. So there's the scan data head, and then of course just deconstructing back through this. So get rid of this here. And obviously I didn't finish all of this stuff out, but you can see, you know, the masseter and the temporalis and where all these things connect to the underlying skull here. So we can also use this for reference. So if you wanted to go through here and, you know, do Shift S and Shift S and I don't know, Shift S, however you want to do it. And of course, also the fat makes a pretty big difference. So you probably want to have that on too. And this is just cool to kind of see these things in action. So you kind of see when you're looking at something, a reference photograph, you can kind of tell like, oh, that's why these little pockets are happening. In fact, if I take this one away, you can see some very specific fat going on back in there. So, okay, here, back in here. And again, I'm not overly concerned about some of this stuff here. And it looks like when we did our, is this our remesh? No, right? Was it? Wow. If you want to close more holes on your remesh, yeah, this isn't our remesh. What did I miss? Did I miss some? Oh, did I delete it? Did I grab another model? Frontal. merged. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I can recreate it. I'm just mystified as to what I did. So again, okay, remesh all. Just remesh anything that's visible here. There's our skin here. And in fact, I'm just going to keep this. I'm just going to take this skin and deflate it. Let's go out of solo mode here. And this merged one, we can just delete. Turn everything else back on, except for not you. And also not you. And also not you. Get out of here. Okay, so anyway, we have this kind of sitting here, and again, we're going to kind of deflate this down and just have little pockets of geometry that we can pull from as needed. And we'll go ahead and dial up our resolution here. Dynamesh, geometry modify, topology, mirror and weld, X symmetry turned on. All right, so all that to say we finally have a temporalis, which of course it took way too long to do that. So let's speed this up a little bit. So for example, we can also set up a brush that'll go across here, and we can start, because again, if we go back here, since we talked about the pec earlier, we dial this in, you're going to see, oh, it goes from the ribs over here to the arm, and it kind of has a little gap here, especially on our body, which is a severe gap over here. So what's a couple ways we could figure this out? Well, we could use ZSphere topology to kind of plot some points and then stick it over here. Yeah, which should be fine. Let's give that a shot. I'm going to hit Control N to clear my canvas here. So we don't even need this. We're just kind of looking at these objects here. So let's go ahead and draw a pec on here. So I'm going to say append a Z-sphere. We have Z-sphere selected. If you want to see where it is, just go into transparency mode. It's kind of sitting inside of his body. Perfect. If you need to scale it down or move it, turn on X symmetry. W-E-R to move these things around. So E, W, just kind of put it right in here where it's not going to bother us. And then I have my trusty hotkey menu. So I'm going to go in here and say edit topology. All the Z-sphere stuff down here, topology, edit topology. And now I can go into Q, which is draw mode. So we can go through here and I can start putting on the pec. Now the pec is Pectoralis major, is going to be right down here on the sternum. So we're going to plot some points, and I'm just clicking to put these points down here down to, I think, the 5th rib, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In between the 5th and 6th rib, I want to say. Just to kind of fudge it, I'm going to hit W and move this up, and we're just going to kind of plot this right along here. And then eventually it's going to not be on here anymore. It's going to switch over to the body here. So, and I can add more resolution as I go, but I'm going to kind of click here, and then I'm going to click here. And it's also going to twist up underneath. This is all going to be one mesh. It's not going to be that crazy, but just while we're drawing it, I'll go ahead and just do it right. So down the chest up to, 3 fingers down from the top of the humerus, let's say, and then, or just underneath the top of the knob of the humerus, and then, the attachment point might be 3 fingers. So here over to this side, and then from the top, we can just tap off on our canvas, or you can right click. If you use right click navigation, you just right click and that'll reset, and then you can just reselect here and then down about, not all the way down the clavicle, but maybe 1/3 of the way down. And then that'll jump over here, and that'll actually go over and cross down here. And that'll be how these things work. If we want to close the shape, we can just tap here and close that shape. Now, if I hit A, which is our adaptive skin preview, that'll go ahead and turn on this preview over here. And then I usually turn my dynamic resolution down to 0, density to 1, so I can see the actual geometry. But there's no real shape happening in here. So I'm going to say, let's keep drawing. If I want to see a little bit better, what I like to do is hold down Shift, turn off our poly paint, go in here, add a darker color, and then Shift, turn off the paintbrush, darker color, and then hop in here to Matte Cap Pearl, and now you can kind of really see what's going on here. So this is just going to be a matter of selecting points along here that's going to stick to my mesh, and then just going across and connecting all these. And again, you can hit W to move things around, and then hop back into Q mode, and it's also going to stick to the underlying object as well, which is kind of good, but also kind of bad depending on, I don't want it to go through the ribs, so it may not be ideal, but I think we'll make do. But you can just put geometry So, you know, out here where there's nothing, you can just click and just add geometry like so, and then you can just go through and we'll just pass this right through here, and then this one through here, and then one more on up, and that's going to twist up into here. So I'm going to say W here. So now hopefully when I say A, there we go, we got some geometry. I'm going to go solo mode, turn on polyframe, go back to white. So you can kind of see we got some geometry going, and it actually did geometry twists. Again, I don't need the actual geometry to twist. It's not that big a deal, but that's one way you can just draw on muscles. We can go in here to make adaptive skin. So we have the Z-sphere selected, make adaptive skin, go down here and we'll just append that skin Z-sphere that it created. This Z-sphere geometry, you can go in and move it around. It can be confusing because you can go through here and subdivide and sculpt, and then you hit A and it hops back to your Z-sphere. So just be careful. Let's go ahead and delete that out of our scene. Now we have geometry in here. We can go through and we can say, okay, let's not do Q-mesh. Let's do extrude polygroup all. Q-mesh can tend to stick things together, which is excellent in a lot of cases, but not in this case. And also, one thing you do want to check is way down here underneath display properties, turn off double so you know which way these things are going. Here you see, oh, this one is actually flipped from this one. Let's do a quick mirror, mirror and weld, deformation mirror, geometry modify topology mirror and weld, and now we can go through and say extrude. And now we've got our flipped over muscles. But again, all I'm going to do is just dynamesh this because it's not that big a deal. So that's another way you can use Z-spheres to draw on muscle, and then you can kind of go through here and modify this however you want. You do a little inflate over here, maybe increase that resolution just a bit. You know, this also does have, if you look, so what's that? That's the, oh, I have zygote body. I can just look. So the let's say the sternum and the manubrium. Let's take a look. So we got bones, we got skeletons. This one doesn't break it down, but I think I'm right. Let me look. Okay, good. We have a sternum here, and the handle, the manubrium right here, is what I was talking about. So on his sternum here, he would have a manubrium right in here, and then this is the rest of the sternum. This is your costal cartilage. This is dynamic, which is why we can't sculpt on it, so hit apply. So manubrium, sternum, xiphoid process, and then your costal cartilage here, and then this is your ribs. So those are your bones there. But because this is cartoony, just make it all bones color, nobody cares. And the only reason I bring up the manubrium is because I believe you'll get a good separation right there on your muscle. So if you wanted to go through here and do striations. Now, one thing to be careful of, this is a thin mesh, right? So if you're going through here and you're like, hey, clay buildup for life, and then control drag, this is the result you're going to get. So one thing you need to do is back to the beginning of this video. Alt F is my backface masking to turn it on, or brush auto masking, backface mask on and off. So you can kind of see as I'm sculpting through, I don't want to touch my back faces, just turn that on real quick. And now this manubrium here, and again, these are going to fold underneath, right? These are going to crisscross over. So these are going to go on top. So there's your clavicular portion. And let's just make this so that it goes here, and then the clavicular portion. And as we go down to the ribs, these are going to start going underneath here. So that's the direction of the striations. And in fact, I think you'll get usually a nice separation at that manubrium point. So then you go back in here to clay buildup and start. There we go. And again, backface masking is on, so we're not worried about those things causing problems for us. Clay buildup, okay. There we go. We've got a pec muscle. So it's a little involved for what we probably need to do, so that'll probably be the last time you see that. But hey, you know what? We're just trying stuff. So we'll do a quick save, and I'll look over here. Oops. Dang it. Hold on just a second. Ugh. See, this is what happens when... Luckily, if I messed up this keyboard, I have a new one sitting right over there because I'm having problems this week, man. All right. Hello, everybody. Yes, Remesh All basically voxelizes. It takes all of this, and depending on your resolution, it'll just kind of put a blanket over everything. I am not part of the development team. I'm the Brian Fellows of ZBrush. And I wouldn't even call myself an expert. I don't use ZBrush all that much in my day-to-day anymore, because I don't make, and not because I don't want to, but because I don't make anything. I make mirror boards. Hey, from India, way over there. Hello from Austin, Texas. Question my morning brain. Yes, my morning brain is not the greatest. The head is just one that I made. They do have heads in Lightbox though. They got the demo head here and underneath tool, and then under the projects, I think they got like the female head and the anime head. So if you wanted to do muscles on any of those, and then here's a female and male body that are really nice to be able to use too. So a lot of resources in there for you to kind of mess with. Skull outward up to the skin. Yeah, it's a good thing to practice. Oh, ZSphere topology is one thing, but also now that I like, thank you, John, for putting ZSpheres back in my head, because we did ZSpheres for this, so you can actually use ZSpheres for, you know, bigger, broader shapes, but also, here's another cool one. Let's pick another area. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say append a ZSphere. So we've used ZSphere topology. Let's go here to transparency so we can, again, reorient ourselves. Here's X, symmetry turned on, E to scale, W to move. We don't need to rotate anything. I'm just going to put that in there. And now, so if I go into solo mode and we have a ZSphere sitting in here, if I go down here and we turn on Z sketch, that'll put our brushes into sketch mode. And again, I just got to keep bringing this up because I know there may be questions about it. If you're not sure what that is, a ZSphere sketch. What? The ZSpheres and Z sketching. Boom. Check it out. It's good stuff. So we're going to go through here, and now we can go through and we can just sketch ZSpheres onto a surface. And in fact, I can hold down Shift and smooth these out. And isn't it already starting to look like muscles? You can hold down Alt to delete, and then Shift to smooth, and then we can start putting in some striations and then smoothing those ends. In fact, you can even go through here and smooth different ways. So how cool is that? The other cool thing is if I go out of solo mode, turn off transparency, I can sketch on my object here. So just for a real easy one, what would be a cool one? Maybe the deltoid. So the deltoid, if I go through here and just start sketching, see how it kind of sticks to whatever's visible. So the deltoid, there's going to be a little cavity. Might it be a sinus or not, but and actually, I mean, let's be accurate. Let's I'm going to select my pec here. Looks like on my model here, it's really more of a 2/3, a little more here. There's the coracoid process, I believe. I'm going to go down and I'm just going to kind of, that's a little much. I mean, it is. So, for example, if you're very lean and you lean back and you kind of put your arm back, you can kind of feel maybe, but you will, that little process from your scapula, you can kind of see, make a little bump on some people. And in fact, underneath your pectoralis major, if we go back and we dial all this stuff in, so if we get rid of this, we turn our eyeball off, you are going to have a pectoralis minor. It's going to go from, well, let's find out. Turn this all down. From that coracoid process down here onto ribs number 3, 4, and 5 underneath. And so if you've seen that Leonardo drawing or that sketch where he's got that old man and you can kind of see indications of that pectoralis minor on there. So very lean people, you can see that with very thin skin, like old people. So yeah, there's that. And then also, I think that's where the brachiobrachialis comes from. Here, dial this back. Yeah, so the coracoid process down here to about maybe just under halfway down there. It's got that little armpit muscle in there. So good stuff, right? So back in here. So we can Z sketch stuff. I don't know that, oh, maybe I'm trying to find something that would be interesting and not need to go over a bunch of stuff. If you want to put our skin back on here, it'd be like, hey, I need to close up some of this stuff. you know? That's where this skin comes in, that envelope that we made, that remesh that we made. In fact, let's go ahead and clean this up. It's not really going to be real helpful through these areas. Hold down Shift, turn on Sculptors Pro, and you just eat away at this geometry. And eat away at this geo. Again, not super helpful. If you have any stragglers down here, you can just hold down, let's turn that off. Control Shift, grab a little piece of this, Control Shift A, Geometry Modify Topology, Delete Hidden, Mirror and Weld. And now we've got those closed up a little bit, and we can just like inflate and deflate this as needed. There we go. So now, Z sketching. Go back down here to our ZSphere, and now we can sketch in all sorts of stuff, which I guess could be like obliques maybe. So we're already in Z sketch mode, or the deltoid, or whatever. I mean, let's just do the arms with this. So, like I was saying here, there's a, I'm not sure how to bring this pec back. Can I show this? Show all. Let's see if I turn this all off and back on. Nope. How do I do it? Unhide all. There we go. Okay, so got that here. What was I talking? Oh yeah, we're gonna Z sketch all the arm stuff. So there is that space in between, just so you don't believe. If you don't believe me, here's the pec, and then here's the deltoid. And so then if we're going to draw this, we're going to start here, we're going to draw down, and then also on the back, the deltoid is going to be along that spine with the scapula, so we're just going to kind of sketch, and we're going to sketch, and we're going to sketch, and kind of build this up. And if we want to, we can hold down Shift and Smooth, and that'll smooth the transitions between our endpoints. We can kind of just layer in. Also, brush size pretty small on this generally. So we're just kind of layering in this. And it's not, because there's just so much gaps in here. I don't know that this is going to be great for the deltoid, but I think it'll work well for the arm, so we'll just suffer through this. So here's, again, the deltoid. And if you want to, you can actually go and hit W to move, and you can move these Z-spheres around. You can also poly paint with Z-spheres. If you hit the comma key, go in here to Projects, Demo Projects. Yeah, so there's a Demo Z-Sketch bug in here. I wanted to say there, oh yeah, the Z-Sketch critter. You can load those up. I don't want to load them up because it'll kill this project, but Q to go back into draw mode, and then Shift to kind of, you know, put these things out. So again, you can go through here and do Z-Sketch. And just like when we were doing Z-spheres, if you hit A, it'll give you a skin. Now this isn't an adaptive skin. When we're in Z-Sketch mode, that gives you a unified skin. So that preview right here is turning on and off, and that'll just give you geometry. So super useful. And you know what? We'll get back to that. Deleted. I want to do another version. I want to do another muscle thing for this. And this is going to be the easiest one. BI brush insert, IMM primitives, hit M or go up here and select one of these. We'll just grab a sphere. Doesn't really even matter that much. And then we'll say split mass points. It's under your subtool menu split. And we're just going to go through here and use the move brush. So now I go through here, and again, the deltoid, spine of the scapula, and then around that acromion process here, and then back up onto that clavicle, and then down surprisingly far on the humerus, I want to say. Like, again, deltoid, dial us back. Maybe not quite halfway, but further than you may think is all I'm trying to get across here. Decently far down. So here's our deltoid, triangle, delta shaped muscle. And then again, we have, this is like nasty geometry, kind of on purpose. So I'm going to go in here, ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0, and just give us some new geometry, right? And then you can do that as many times as you want, especially when you're just blocking something in. And that's part of that stylized playbook, is just to use primitives and very low resolution geometry so you get a nice smooth result. And then if you want to dynamesh it later, you can, but at least you know, man, he's just bizarre. This anatomy just does not work. But it's the rule of cool. There's no reason to make a character as awesome as Finn on Adventure Time adhere to anatomical rule sets necessarily, because it's more about the silhouette and the shape, you know, and it's fluid. It doesn't need to be accurate because it has to be representative of whatever they're trying to get across in the stylized stuff. So there's a cool deltoid. And that's probably the best way to go about a lot of these. One more thing I want to maybe bring up is like a strap muscle. So let's go in here to BC. Curve flat snap might work, but there's also a curve strap, which already has geo. So one thing I'm going to do is we're going to go in here to stroke, and this is an IMM curve brush. So we can use IMM, so many different ways to do this. So we're going to go in here to, this already has curve mode turned on, so if I just, let's do a quick save. 9 on your keyboard is also a quick save, but it's also just a button up there. Didn't expect it to have to save that long. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff loaded up, that's why. I forgot we had all this. That's fine. So, for example, if I want, oh boy. Yeah, because his, so on the back of the skull, you're going to have a lump behind your auditory meatus here. So I guess we can have to update this, this little thing. And that's where your neck muscles or your Sternomastoid is going to attach. So here, over here to your sternum and your clavicle. It's messed up. Because, yeah, he's going to have a big bulbous head and then his neck's going to be thin. And this neck muscle isn't really going to match that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go fudge. Like I could fudge the skull back, but this head is round. So I'm going to, in the world, what's it called? Ooh. I'm going to go through here. So B curve. And if you haven't watched Adventure Time, oh, curve snap surface, we can use that too. It's interesting. I would definitely give it a shot. So curve mode, snap, we're going to turn off bend start and bend end. And we're just going to use this as a strap. And you're going to see that the intensity is set to 25, so it's going to be kind of thin. If you want to thicken it out, just crank it up to a higher number. If you want to thin it out, obviously smaller. If you really want to, there it is, full, and that's just the full height. And then, in fact, if you want to turn this into a circle or back into what would be considered your curve tube, somewhere in here, your curve tube brush, that would be underneath your modifiers. It's set to 4. If you crank that up to 11, that's going to be 11 spans around. So that's basically how they're creating this brush. It's just the curve tube brush, this set to 4, intensity set down, and now it's a strap, if you're interested. Now, the biggest thing about this was the, I guess we can turn off snap. We'll just do as line. So now if we want to go from one point to another point, we can just have a line on here. And then we can just tap off, and then we're going to say split mass points, and I'm just going to use my move brush to kind of dial this in. So again, it's not connected to a skull. I apologize to all the anatomists in the world, but it is what it is. And then we're going to go in here to Dynamesh, smooth this up, and that could be kind of a start for a, and again, he's going to have a thin neck, so it's going to be something like this. I apologize. Something, and even this is going to be like, we're going to have to fudge that. So yeah, and then wherever this needs to connect. So we can go through here, and you can turn on transparency with Ghost if you want, and you can kind of spread this part out and whatever needs to happen for this. So we got that dialed in. Now you can make your own muscle brush. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make a couple muscle brushes. In fact, I might have some saved. If I go into my comma key, okay, some of this has got to go. So we don't need all this detail. Delete all. There we go. So now when I quick save, it should go a little faster. We don't need this anymore. Sorry, I'm just trying to clean up stuff so that we can move a little bit faster. And I think I have enough reference to where I don't need to hop in here anymore, so sorry, I'm just testing stuff right now. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, cut back up. Oh, thank you, no problem. Glad the tutorials are helping out. 3D scans, we're giving away free base mesh head, by the way. Go grab it. It's good reference. Excellent, thank you, Crisis Bomberman. Agreed. I did do the brain yesterday, actually. So back to YouTube here. Go find the big blue genie. And then in here, where did we create that brain? There we go, brain. Right there. I'll link you right to it. Share, start at. There you go. There's that brain creation. Oops, I think I accidentally put a bracket in there, but you get the point. A little polygonal. Do you have a tutorial series on ZBrush? Oh, I got so many tutorial series on ZBrush. If you're brand new to ZBrush, I would start with this intro to ZBrush right here. And it's also, this is a little bit easier to look at. So here's the intro to ZBrush. Oops, see it. Intro to ZBrush. And then here's 2022 all the way down to ZBrush 4.8, what's new. So if you start here and then go to here and then work your way through the new series, you'll know kind of everything I do, give or take. And that'll get you up and running. So anyway, we got some muscles going. Oh, we were gonna make our own muscle brush. So we're gonna go out of edit mode. We've already done a quick save. What's a good way to go about this? Doesn't matter. Polymesh 3D, edit. Here, I'm gonna go down here to initialize on this one. So if you go to initialize on a primitive, this is a Polymesh 3D primitive, you're going to have a bunch of initialize options. After you hit make Polymesh 3D, you're going to have these options. I like to hit Q cube. We'll go ahead and stretch this out just a little bit. We're going to go in here to bevel edge loop complete with our Z modeler brush, BZM, and then Control Shift drag. We're going to make this a tripart curve brush. Control W, this will be one end cap. Control W, another end cap, and then a repeating middle. So if I go in here to B, create insert mesh new. Okay, good. And then there's our insert mesh brush. And you could use this for muscles too if there was a muscle that would be easier to kind of, and actually that neck strap actually probably would be easier. I'll show you in just a second. But we can go in here to stroke, turn on curve mode underneath stroke curve. And now this will be a curve, and now we need to weld these points together. So underneath brush modifiers, triparts we want on, and we have 3 parts, triparts, 1, 2, 3 polygroups, a beginning, an end, and a repeating middle. We want to weld these points, so we'll go ahead and tap here, and now these points are welded. And if in fact, if you want to go in here to, voice is cracking, I'm Benjamin buttoning back. So we can go in here to curve modifiers, size, curve fall off. If I tap here, it'll go from thin to thick. I want it to go from pretty thin to full sized to pretty thin. You know, isn't that how muscles kind of have a attachment point and then a belly of the muscle? So now we have a muscle brush. And in fact, if I wanted to snap from point to point, we can say turn off bend start, and actually bend start and bend end are good to have on, but we want to do this as line. And so now I can go here to here, and that'll give us a nice muscle belly. If we like this brush, go in here to brush, select icon, whatever is on your document, it'll save it as. We'll go in here to save as, and again, we'll hop back in here to ZBrush 2022, ZBrushes, IMM, we'll call this muscle. There we go. So now if you ever need this again, hit the comma key, go into brush, and then go into your IMM folder. And then somewhere in here is a weird looking icon. And you can select your own. When you go in here to brush, select icon. If you hold down Alt and select icon, you can go grab a JPEG. So you can make your own image, but there's muscle. So you can just double click that. Then you got your muscle brush. Let me see what else I got in here. Because I want to say I already did this. I did this like literally 10 years ago for a demony project. Creature. Yeah, okay. I guess I don't have it. It would be under hill brushes. That's too bad, because those are cool. Anyway, so we have this here. So we have a muscle brush now. So we'll go back in here. And what would be a good candidate for another strap? I guess that was a pretty decent example. But for example, I mean, this is going to stick to anything you have here. So if you wanted to do like a, I don't know, tensor TFL or whatever, basically anywhere you start and then stop, it'll put a little muscle there. So you can tap off, And then you can put another little muscle in here, tap off, another little muscle in here, tap off. And now you've got a nice little muscle brush here. And then these are all separate objects. If you go in here to move brush, and you can use move topological, there's BM move topological in here. I usually have my brush menu open, so I go in here to auto masking and then just say topological turned on for my move brush. You know, I usually, for some reason, I put this at like 1.5. I think that's the move topological. So now you can go in here and move topological and just move these things around individually. And like we mentioned in Tuesday's live stream, if you make your brush size 1, you can move the entire piece around without it having a fall off. So that's kind of neat. Also, you can also, in this case, you don't even need topological. You say mask by polygroups, and that's global, by the way. So if you want to go through here and move, and just whatever the first polygroup you select, it'll affect it. And then also if we want to do like an inflate with mask by polygroups on, again, that's global, so it stays on. Now we can go through and inflate these. If we don't have this on, it's going to inflate these, whatever's underneath my brush radius. So, cool. Brush muscle. Deleted. There was that. And also for Z-spheres, if you want to do, again, things connecting, it doesn't have to be drawn Z-spheres. It can just be an actual Z-sphere. So we can go through here with our Z-sphere, and that's again buried inside of our body. X, E, W, Q. You can draw Z-spheres off of here. So we can kind of put an armature in here, and then on this armature you can paint Z-spheres, or you can use this just for muscles. So if you wanted to, I'm running out of stuff to stick between. So let's go down here, and if we wanted to do our Sartorius, maybe, let's click off here. Yeah, that'd be a good one. So we're gonna say, where's the Sartorius start? So that's gonna start up here on the anterior superior iliac spine, and then down here we're gonna say Q and draw out another Z-sphere, and I was gonna move this down to the inside. That attaches down underneath that tibia there. So move this back here. So now if it needs to go thick to thin or whatever, you can go in here and you can scale these in. You can hit Q and W and kind of move these things around. Although I wouldn't really necessarily make a Sartorius just sitting in space. I need to know where the volumes of the legs would go, right? But you can also use this as a way just to make muscles. So if I hit A, it's going to go ahead and turn this into a Dynamesh. But again, density down to 1, Dynamesh resolution down to 0, and now we get just this geometry. You can say make adaptive skin, append, skin Z-sphere, grab, we don't need this stuff here, so just get rid of it, delete hidden, close holes, and now you've got this geometry you can kind of go through. Oops, the Z-sphere we can delete. So that's another option for you. It's just to use actual Z-sphere geometry, which can be kind of neat. All right, let's get down to it, because there's a muscle brush. It seems like there was something else. You could use brush curve, by the way. Exact same process. You don't have to make your own tri-part curve brush. You can just go in here to curve tube and say as line, turn on, you know, kind of small to big to kind of small size. And there you go. Now you've got a muscle brush as well. So just sticking with curve tubes. A little more resolution on that one too. Okay, you know what? If something comes to me, I'll bring it up. But let's go get these arms going. This is where Z-sketching might come in handy. But also, I mean, gosh, what I'm going to end up doing is probably just a lot of this, where I can just go grab a Z-sphere, split mask points. Oops, let's do a quick mirror and weld. X symmetry turned on. X symmetry turned on. We'll go to unmesh. These are huge. I'll leave it alone for now. It's under your preferences. We'll go and turn on LSIM. If I have LSIM turned off and I try to scale this, it's going to go towards the middle of the world and away from the center of the world. Local sim will put it on that local axis symmetry. So here we got the biceps, and we're gonna just be cruising. I need to get this thing done. So we're gonna slap some bicep volume in here, and again, it's gonna be so thin because if I put the skin back on, he's got noodle arms, like literally ridiculous noodle arms. So probably don't want to spend a lot of time. And again, we can go in here to ZRemesh or half on this thing, give us some new geometry, go in here and maybe inflate just a tiny bit, and then stick this back in here. If we want to do triceps, and his noodle arms, here, we can say W, control drag off a copy, and then, you know, we can just do another split mask points if we want to. It's under your subtool split menu. And now we can pop in this head of the tricep here. Scoot this guy around here. There we go. So we got one tricep head here. It's going to attach back here, and it'll be a little more meaty up top, and then W, control drag out a copy. I'll put all these together as one subtool. So here's the other head of the tricep, goes down here. And then there is another little one here. So this will be that. This will kind of be underneath, and that's going to attach. Let's go smooth this down. In fact, no, masking isn't going to work for that. Let's hit W and we'll squash this down. There we go. And this little head of the tricep on the inside. And again, if you're doing cartoony stuff, boy, don't waste your time on this. Just go in and flesh it out. But we're just talking about technique stuff. So there we go. Got that working. This is going to not be overpowering this. And then, of course, you put in your brachialis. But oh, and here's another thing too. If we want to move these around, let's go ahead and go back to our brush here, and we'll turn on topological for our move brush. So that way we can just tuck this one here. It's just going to peek around that head of the bicep or the tricep there. And then you got their radius and the ulna, flexors and extensors here. So our extensors are on the top here. You got your ridge muscles. Let's go ahead and say ZRemesh half. So here is our extensors along the top, and they got a bunch of different names. I could pull in some reference for that, but come on. You don't need all that. It's just fin. And then, so the brachioradialis, and then next to that is extensor carpi radius, longest right. I would not have remembered that, but same kind of thing. This thing up here, and that's going to be that nice separator here, and that's going to go and attach down here. And again, he's got noodle arms, so I can't bulk him out too much. But this is going to be an Ecorche model. It's going to be separate from the cross section, so we can fudge it a little bit, I think. And then the flexors on the inside. You know what? Let's do an auto groups, and then I like to do a geometry modified topology mirror and weld, so the same groups on both sides. And then W, control tap a poly group will auto unmask it. Control drag will make another copy. And now we've got basically our flexors on the other side. We could say, you know, give them some Popeye arms here. So a little more meat up at top, and then it goes down through your carpal tunnel. Some of the stuff anyways, not all of it. And there's your flexors. And then we've got our bicep here. We're gonna, if we end up dynameshing this, we can just fudge this around and get it close enough. Okay, so now here, let's go ahead. I'm gonna duplicate this little skin, or this remesh skin off. And this has Dynamesh turned on, or at least it does now. And we're just going to dial in a couple things here. So this is good practice for me too. So here's our external obliques. We're going to dial back these muscles here. And then, so you can just see, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, just under the pecs, kind of in this direction here, because your serratus anterior is going to, let's put both of those on. So here and here, we want to check both these out. So our serratus anterior back inside of the spine of the scapula, or the medial spine of the scapula here, I suppose. And then all the way around here to the ribs, and then you're only going to see the ones just underneath the pec, and then maybe 2 or 3 of those on a very lean muscular person, or a lean person maybe. And then over here on the obliques. So that's basically what I'm eyeballing here. Let's see. Cool, thank you. I have a rope brush that when I draw out a curve or a closed circle around the waist, it stretches where it connects. That might be an artifact of basically when you, or maybe not, sometimes it's just not going to connect well. You can bridge if it has, you can like take a, let's see, brush, curve, where's our muscle brush? So for example, if I want to wrap something around it, I can hold down Shift and just hold down Shift and it'll go around stuff, right? Am I crazy? Oh, I have as line turned on. Duh. There we go. So it'll wrap around an object. So if I want to wrap it around a head, I'm turning off X symmetry. We just wrap this around, and you're going to see there may or may not be a gap in here, or it could just do a stretch. When things are about the same size, usually what'll happen is it'll do a pretty good job, and then at that point you can try to go in here and say, you know, I'm just going to do a quick group by normals. Oh yeah, that's fine. Here, get rid of these little end caps here. Delete hidden, or if it's stretching in here, just be like, hey, you know what? Get rid of whatever your problematic areas are, delete hidden, and then just do a bridge 2 holes. This isn't going to work for everything. You know, some brushes are different, but at least you can kind of get that to work. I don't know if there's a way to fix it. Unfortunately, I may have to see it, but I have some bad news. There may not be a real elegant way to fix that particular issue. I wish I had a better answer for you. Such is life. But oh, that's another thing. Okay, so let's get these obliques done. So we have some obliques coming down here, and those are going to attach right in here, and it's maybe have some love handles in here. So let's go ahead and just bump this up. That's going to kind of ride the top of that, and then it's going to kind of fold over here. That anterior superior iliac spine and the ACES here, and then on that floating rib back here. So basically all of this area here is external obliques, and then we're going to do the rectus abdominis, and there's going to be a sheath up at the front, but you know what, I suppose that can just be the rectus abdominis in just a second. So all this area in here is our external obliques. So let's go ahead and control, and I keep forgetting to turn on X symmetry. Not a huge deal, I can just turn it on here, but I'm going to mask this area here, and that's going to kind of swing around pretty drastically here to here, and yeah, somewhere in here. Okay, so again, we're just dialing in our obliques, and then after this we'll do the serratus anterior, and then I'm going to use some curves. Remind me, curves, no, remind me, object with bend curve. That's another good one. So a lot more flexibility too. I'm kind of pissed I forgot about that one, because that'd probably be my preferred go-to. Delete hidden, close holes, I guess. Do a quick mirror and weld. LSIM turned off. Control drag to re-dynamesh. Shift to kind of chew away some of these edges, these nasty edges. Although I should probably show you a better way to do that. So here, where we, before we closed our holes, so if I do a close holes operation or just a dynamesh operation, it'll close holes, but I like to do a close holes operation so I can go through here, go into move brush with my auto masking turned on, which we talked about a bunch, and now I can just give myself a little breathing room around those edges where it gets thin or kind of overlaps itself maybe. You can kind of just go in and just pull this in, and then you can also hit W and control tap this and give yourself some thickness like that, or use actual masking instead of backface masking, however you want to do it. But that way we have an external oblique good to go. And then if we go back to our working skin here, our serratus anterior, again, back inside of the scapula, let's turn on transparency with ghost to here, and these are going to be a little more parallel to the ribs through here. So now if I go through here and say, okay, serratus anterior, you are all of this. Let's go into solo mode, all this in here. Let's go ahead and duplicate this off. Control Alt Tap will sharpen up your mask. Control W makes it its own polygroup. Delete hidden, close holes. W, Control Tap, give ourselves a little breathing room here. Re-dynamesh. You can ZRemesh this and or extract or whatever you wanted to do, but that's just a way I like to do it. And this will actually be, oops, turn off back face masking. So now there's our serratus anterior. And this one, you can go through here and we're going to kind of sketch on this. So again, these are going to be super parallel. Through here. So basically like here, and then here, and then here, and then here. And then these obliques are going to kind of tuck up into the serratus anterior here. I'm just using a little bit of move acu. Something like that. These things kind of go into each other like so. Okay, so we need to start. Well, let me show you this one too, because I think this would have been super useful for the neck muscles, for example, which I deleted. That's okay, because I can just redo them. So, for example, I have in my custom brushes here, I have a bend curve. So it's basically, if I do an insert mesh brush with polyframe turned on, all it is a cylinder stretched out with a bunch of segments along here. So what I can do is, instead of using a snap to kind of snap between objects, I can literally just pull out this object, go ahead and say split mask points. We'll go ahead and move this in. This will actually work better without both sides. So I'm just going to grab one side, delete hidden. So you're going to see as I insert meshed this out, it went ahead and it dialed in the axis for me. Like, here's my gizmo. If it didn't, or for some reason it got a little off kilter, what I'm going to do is alt tap this little top point here, and that's going to set this right down the object here. So with this gizmo, I can go in here, I can say bend curve. That's going to put, if your axis is wrong, so if I go in here and here's the resolution cone, so you can just dial that in so you get some more resolution in here. You may have it in the wrong axis, like it may be going this way. Just go in here to your axis and select down the correct axis. So now I have complete control over this thing. So if I want to go through here on this dot and move it around, I can go through and like swing this geometry around or manipulate it however I'd like. I can even go in here and on every single one of these I can scale it down. So if I want to kind of scale, let's go to solo mode so you can see, scale this point down and scale this point down, and even go in here and twist, or here's squeeze, that's just one axis on either side, but here's twist, so you can kind of twist this around if you want to. So a lot of really cool ways to go through and manipulate this geometry. And then when you're done, you just go back in the move brush, and then now you've got a nice piece of geo. So that's another really easy way to do that stuff. This here, let's see, mesh, same this time. Smooth. Let's turn our smooth intensity down just a tiny bit. Just hold down shift, and now we can kind of dial in this back into where it should go. And then the reason why I did it on one side is this bend curve. It just works better with one object. And then all we got to do is stretch this out a little bit. Maybe do a little inflate. And if things start getting wobbly, well, even when you're moving around this kind of stuff, always remember polish by features, or just polish. We'll kind of smooth that out for you. And then once you get to a certain point, we'll just do a quick mirror and weld, X symmetry turned on by tapping X on your keyboard, and we're back where we started. So same thing with this one, mirror and weld, serratus anterior, mirror and weld, and rectus abdominis. This one, let's do this, BTO, topology brush, and you can literally go through here. I'm going to turn off X symmetry. I'm going to go slightly over that midline and then just drag out on our object here, and it's going to put these little curves, and then as you drag across these curves and connect them, it's going to start making orange squares. If you want to hold down Alt, you can drag over curves and delete them, or if you want to clean up all of this, you can Alt drag out here and it'll just clean this entire thing up. So you can go through here and you can like get rid of these ones. You can continue drawing off of here. So if you need more information about Topology Brush, you already know what to do by now, but if you're just joining us, YouTube channel, Topology Brush, good stuff. Again, here's the ArtStation page, which is going to have a little bit easier to kind of go through visually, and then here's the playlists if you want to kind of dig through those. So anyway, we have some geometry on here, and we don't have geometry. We have curves on here, and we want geometry. However big your brush size is how thick it'll make the geo. If you just want a thin mesh, just take your draw size down to 1. I'm just tapping S, by the way. So you can just tap on your object or away from those curves. That'll give you, it'll mask whatever you're drawing on, and then give you the geo. And I'm going to say split mask points. And now it's on its own group here. And in fact, if I want to, I can do a quick crease with the crease tolerance to 45, and then with creases on, I can do a polish by feature, and that'll go ahead. Ooh boy, that did a bunch, didn't it? We'll turn that back to a closed circle. We can just polish this back out. So now it'll keep my corners nice and crispy and smooth out the transition geo. So very quickly. Now, it's rectus abdominis, it should go across the middle, right? So we'll do a quick mirror, mirror and weld. Let's do a quick uncrease all, we'll recrease, do a quick polish by features, and just smooth that back out. X symmetry turned on, and look at that. We have a rectus abdominis, or your abs, like so. And then if you want to, what I'm going to do is uncrease all for this one. D for dynamic, so that's turning dynamic on and off in your geometry dynamic menu. So Shift D turns it off and D turns it on, so that'll give you a preview of what it'll look like when it's smooth. And then when you're ready to apply these subdivisions because you want to sculpt on real geo, that's when you can hit that apply button. So we'll just dial this in. A little belly in here. Abs, everybody. And then here we need to take these obliques and we'll just kind of push these over. And in fact, let's do a quick mirror, mirror and weld. I like working with low res geo. X symmetry turned on, ZRemesher, depth size down to 0, nice even quads, target polygon count of 5 is fine. I don't need to keep any poly groups. We're just gonna knock this back a little bit. There we go. And I'm just gonna keep doing half. ZRemesher half, half, half. There we go. Much easier to move this stuff around. Much easier to smooth. Just easier all around. So that'd probably basically be my workflow. And then this one, in case I wouldn't go in and like, I mean, I guess you could box model whatever you need to on here, but I'm going to say apply, maybe subdivide, Control D one time, go in here to my Damien standard brush, and we can just dial in. So here it's going to kind of follow that curve, that Jurassic arch, that thoracic arch here. Here it's going to start bending down, and then so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oof, no, it's not going to be that many, is it? Let's look at my guy. So here's our thoracic arch, and then here we're gonna have maybe a little 2 up here, just a tiny bit. Although that's going over, it's way up there. But again, this guy's weird. Belly button is right here, and then here's your. This won't have a line on it. This will just be your belly button here, and then here. This is maybe a slight arch here, and then this will be a big arch here. So here's our abdominals. One thing I forgot to mention, so let's go ahead and hit Control D a couple times on this deltoid if you want to get accurate with it. And I'm using that term real loosely here, obviously. The belly of this muscle is going to be out here, and then it's going to kind of flatten. It still attaches here, but this is mostly going to not, it's like tendons. Ligaments or tendons? I forget the difference. I mean, one's attached to bone, one's attached muscle to muscle, or not to bone, but I don't remember which one is which. But smooth out, and then here is your deltoid. Here's the rear head, and then this head, and then you got your what do they call those? Multi-pennant, I think. Here around that acromion process. So those 3 kind of heads here, and then we got our triceps and biceps kind of dialed in a little bit here, and then we'll hit Control D a couple times on this one if we want to start sculpting in. And the cool thing about having subdivision history is that let's make sure I got this. So the serratus anterior coming this way, the obliques are going to be pulling down this way. That's the direction of that muscle. Like so, down here. Oh, and there's a really important muscle back here. So now we have a whole bunch of choices we can use. I'm going to go in here to my muscle brush, and so it's going to be the teres major. Let's take a look at that. So we'll click out of here, bring our muscles back. This bad boy right here, teres major from the serratus anterior off. The cup of the scapula up into the kind of your armpit basically. So let's follow that. So basically the cup of that armpit right in here to here. Let's turn off snap here. Then start bend in curve mode as line. Did I turn that off? Silly. Tap off, and then this is going to again here to the inside, kind of the armpit area. Now, obviously, Finn, you know, his body just does this shape, so this isn't going to be completely accurate, but I think it'll make for a slightly more compelling end result if it kind of follows. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. And then we go through here and we can inflate this out. Teres minor and infraspinatus aren't going to make a huge difference, but we can go in here and say delete lower, control drag up, and then we can stuff a little minor in here. Don't quote me on that. And then drag up, and we'll inflate this up. Infraspinatus. Something like that, I don't know. Good enough. Move topological here, and this will actually way bigger. Let's see. Quickly, just do this real quick, sorry. Okay. Back to our big piece here. Again, X symmetry turned on. I keep forgetting to turn that on. And for the legs, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do another merge visible, append that merged result, go down and find that merged result. I'm going to do a quick inflate. I'm going to do a quick Dynamesh on this, X symmetry turned on. So again, we just have all this, and you know, let's say Control W. I'm going to do a quick. Everything I'm doing is quick. I'll stop saying it. Do a polish by features. There we go. So now we have a nice kind of base for everything I want to do. So in this instance, if I want to do the adductors, I'm turn on backface masking with our move brush. So here's some adductors chilling, and then here is our quadriceps and our hamstrings. We can break those down in their individual muscles, and then here is our calf muscle, or gastrocnemius here, and then soleus is in there. Yeah, so very thin legs. Obviously, we're having some serious artistic license with poor Finn's silhouette. But hey, what are you gonna do? So, and if I want to get rid of some of this, again, we can just chew that back with our Sculptris Pro. So it's like, okay, all this can be chewed back. And you know what? We're going to do the exact same thing for the arms. The chest and stuff's already kind of built out. But the arms and back, I might want to use this. Back muscle lats. Let's just start dialing this in real quick. Turn that off. So the lats are going to be... Oh, yeah, I forgot about the traps. So right over the spine of the scapula here, down to about mid-back, you've got your trapezius muscle, and then up here to that occipital protuberance, and then down here, and then I'll kind of wrap around to that chromium process, and then a little bit onto that, a little bit on that clavicle too. So all of this in here is all trapezius, and then here's our C7 here-ish. That'll be where you tilt your head forward, 7th cervical vertebrae, kind of poke through there. So let's go ahead and separate this out. You know what? We haven't done an extraction yet. I suppose we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and extract this off here. And we can, it's a little bit easier to move stuff around individually, right? Everybody knows that. So that's why I like to do that. Okay, so we've got this piece here. So if I don't want to, like, you know, duplicate this off, make a polygroup, split it, close holes, what I've been doing, you can simply go in here and do an extraction. So here's extract, smooth, these are all fine. So just extract, that'll give you your thickness. You can dial that in however you like. If you like what you see, just hit accept, control drag to get rid of that masking. And the cool thing about this is you do have a front and back and connecting polygroup here, so you can go in here to polish by features and just polish this back. And in fact, you can see even ZRemesh, depth size down to 0, nice even quads, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. Your groups are already smooth. Target polygon count down a little bit, and just immediately give you some nicer geometry. You don't have to deal with that nasty extracted mesh that I was working with. And you can say half. Boom, boom. Oh, there you go. So now, even now, we can go in here to extrude or Q mesh if you want to. Polygroup all, you can hold down shift as you do these operations, and you can just slide them along their surface normal, which is super useful. And this piece here we don't need. So insert single edge loop, hold down alt, get rid of that edge loop. So now we can go through here and just in and done. So we got our trapezius on there. Lats, we'll go swing on back here. Our guy around here. So the lats, those are going to tuck up into the armpit here. So we can, you know, we can steal some of this. So this, I'm just going to mask. I'm not even bother sculpting where the lats go. Right here across that bottom part of that, oh, whoops, the spine of the scapula here, just overlapping, and then right up here into that armpit. And then the lats are going to be thicker up top, and they're going to kind of thin out as it goes down here. And that's why whenever you look at somebody's back, let me see, oops. Okay, what's going on? Oh no. Okay, damn. I think my keyboard's freaking out because I spilled water on it this morning. Come on, relax. Yeah, my keyboard's messing up. Man, I'm just killing it today. For example, you are not relaxed. Give me a break. This is bodybuilder relaxed, which means standing there completely flexed. Let me see. I'm not even. My keyboard isn't working that great, so screw it. But basically, you're generally not going to see like lats in this shape necessarily, unless they're kind of flexed. What you're going to see poking through more often than not is that serratus anterior is going to make a bulge right here, kind of pushing through all these thin layers of muscle. So that's why you'll get that kind of sweep through here when you're drawing it back. It won't look like an Ecorche model. Long story short. Anyway, here's my piece here. We'll just do another extraction. That was pretty easy, right? So extract, we like it, accept, unmask, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, ZRemesh, target polygon count low, and we'll just get ourselves some new geometry. And in fact, again, if you want to polish these, it's the polish by feature. A feature is a polygroup border or a crease line, either or. And oops, half, half, half. And if you want to get rid of the center line, you can just insert single edge, pull down Alt, and then now you have the ability to kind of, again, all the cool stuff we could do. And we can even hold down Shift to smooth. And this will be our lats. And the lats are actually going to be on top of some spinal erectors that are going to give you those two little columns at the back too. Right? And then these will be underneath the traps there. All right, doing well. Now, glutes. Get them fin glutes. I think they, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with this. Glutes are gonna fill all this in. Gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, through here. and the coccyx. And then, there we go. And let's go back to our, hold on. Muscles back, zoom out. So, gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and then the iliotibial band, and then there's a TFL, which is all part of the same thing on here, it looks like. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, we're in good shape. And then through the front of the leg here is going to be our rectus femoris, vastus lateralis outside, vastus medialis inside, sartorius. Here's our adductor group. And then semitendinosus, semimembranosus, or reverse that. And then our gastrocnemius, soleus, tibialis anterior, more leg muscles here. So if I scrunch this back here, that's basically what we're going to do really quickly. So all this through here. Clay buildup, down here to that head of the femur, which gives you a nice bony landmarks. Bony landmarks are the best. I've found that bony landmarks really walk my world. See intensity up. So gluteus medius, maximus. If you want to, you can kind of sketch these in. Damien standard brush or whatever you'd like. And again, these are just going to kind of sit right in here and radiate out around that great trochanter. Iliotibial band, tensor, clay buildup. My clay buildup brush, I need to, you know what? Okay, stroke is over here. Let's go into some of this over here. It's not lazy mouse, is it? Modifiers, roll distance 5. That kind of smooths this line out here. And for this one, we're really just kind of looking at rhythms. And I know we've talked about this before, where it's like, boy, what was I doing? U and U, 0 and 0. All right. Oh man, I hope this isn't doing something weird. Everything's still good. I hope so. So here's that leg. So here's the bones inside the leg. So here's your pelvis in here, and then you've got your, so here's your little pelvis bowl, and then out here you got your great trochanter, and then your bones are going to go in here. So that's your femur, and then your tibia, and it's going to have a nice sweep in here, and then your fibulas on the outside. So here's your bones of your legs, and there's your feet in here. Let's go ahead and, oh, whoops, sorry if my camera's rocking. It's, oh, I'm not even, screw it. So here, so anterior superior iliac spine right here, there's your sartorius, and it's going to come around and kind of give a nice, a bunch of stuff's going to get packed in over here. Here's your adductor muscles, and then here's your vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, rectus femoris, your femur, and then your patella, and then over here where your tibia and your fibula are, and then your femur, that's going to be a little flatter, and then you have a nice curve in here, and then your gastrocnemius, and it's going to be, and again, you're looking for those, you know, high to low, high outside, low on the inside, and then it's going to flip over here. It's going to be high here, and then lower here where the fibula is, and then your feet. So that's that rhythm you're really looking for through here. And exact same thing for the arm. You got your deltoid. So here's supinated arm. So here's your deltoid and your biceps, and then your ridge muscle here, and then your flexor, and then a little peak of that triceps here, and then there's your chromium process and your clavicle, and then that fifth spine here, and then there's your so here's that little space, there's your clavicle, there's that little space in between here, and then there's your clavicular portion of your pec, and then here's your sternal portion, then here's your ribs portions, and then again those are going to kind of crisscross over here underneath all of this deltoid. But again, it's those rhythms, the high to low, high to low, high to low kind of rhythms that you have in the body. So it's not like that. You know, there's nuance, but really it's those volumes you're kind of looking for. So even though I don't know exactly how these things need to resolve, at least I know the rhythms, and if I can dial those in, I've already got half the battle done, and then I can just go through and, you know, sketch in when I need to. So again, the rhythm is high to low, and I should also mention profile views, because those are actually easier. So here's the body. So head, rib cage. This is exaggerated, but for good reason. Here's the legs here, and then so now there's that great trochanter, and then here's your TFL and your gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, kind of again radiating around here, and then here there's going to be a drop down. So there's their ASIS point, and then here's where things start to happen. So again, those rhythms, the high or big to small, high to low. So here's your quads, here's your hamstrings, here's your calf, gastrocnemius, and then here's your tibialis anterior, all your shin muscles there, and then there's your feet. Here's your iliotibial band, all that good stuff. But again, it's that rhythm, high to low, big to small, and then actually this is going to be a little nerves and fat back here, and then gluteus medius. So again, those rhythms is really more what I care about than the specifics of what we're doing as far as like anatomy, right? So get your rhythms in first. You do your sketch before you do your refinement, because going in here and even for like doing anything almost is like get the volumes in first, get the rhythms in, make sure those are working. And in fact, let's crank this resolution way down. I don't like working with a ton of resolution. It just makes things harder to push around, makes things lumpy, right? So get your rhythms in, and then once all that's kind of working, then you can go in, and it's not quite working just yet, but we're getting there. And sometimes inflate is maybe a little bit better. It's a little inflate brush action. And then once you get your volumes in place and your rhythms in place, and this isn't a great example because he's such a weirdo anatomy wise, but then down through here, it's like, okay, technically this is going to have to be filled in, right? Yeah, I guess clay bill will be fine. And also another thing too is muscles, you know, they go from the origin to insertion, right? And it's going to be generally a straight line, you know, one muscle to another point, and then when it contracts, it just kind of squeezes along that path and then bulges in between. So for example, we have our humerus, and then our radius and ulna and all that stuff. So we'll put his arm this way. There's our deltoid, and then actually this is another interesting one too. So if you curl your fist towards you, your bicep's going to kind of peak, and if you curl it away from you, it's going to flatten. So just something to keep in mind as you're drawing stuff. So here we've got our triceps that aren't going to be flexed because this is the opposite opposing muscle. So this is just going to kind of be a tricep sitting there. It's not going to be like beep, boop, boop, super tricep popping. It's not doing anything. And tricep isn't flexing when you're doing this, but your bicep sure is, right? Brachioradialis here, and then your brachialis here. And then again, when the arm is shooting this way, you know, doing that bodybuilder pointing to the beach pose, you are going to get that peak. But the whole point of this was you have point A, point B, and then, oh man, I can't even undo. Oh, that's bad news. I give myself some real challenges today. Here's the muscle body just kind of sitting there, and then as these 2 points contract, it'll kind of bulge out here, and then you're going to have that. So, but again, this muscle isn't doing this, right? It's not like, okay, here's my origin, here's my insertion, here's my muscle belly, and when it contracts, it kind of does this loopy thing. Sometimes, you know, muscles do kind of go around things, or, you know, but it's usually not like this. It's usually like, you know, here to here. And also the other rhythm too is bony landmark here, bony landmark, and then you're going to have a muscle belly, and then you're going to have a flat. So you're going to see that a lot. Muscle, flat, bony. Muscle, flat, bony. Bony, muscle, flat. Muscle, ligaments, tendons. So I don't know. This is a little more rare, but like through here, it'd be like muscle, flat, bony landmark, point. So muscle, flat, bony landmark, and that's bones, tendons, ligaments, and muscles. So those three shapes here, which all equal to a really bizarre Ecorche. So again, go through here. Damien standard if you want to sketch this point here. The Sartorius is really cool, and there's a Gracilis in there too, but I like the Sartorius. Here to here, this is going to separate our adductor muscles, which is back here, these muscles through here, from our, again, rectus femoris, our vastus medialis, middle of the body, vastus lateralis, outside of the body, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, or your hamstrings, and then again your calf muscle here, and then tibialis anterior, which is kind of gonna swing across the muscle here. So just major muscles, nothing. And then the bone from the tibia, it's gonna be your shin right here. That's gonna flatten out too. Nice. So we've got that all dialed in, and now you can separate these muscles out if you want to. You already know how to do that. You can drag, you can Z-sketch muscles, you can do whatever you'd like, but at least you've got those muscle shapes here working. And I'm gonna sign off of this live stream and switch out my keyboard because boy, it's being a pain in my butt. But anyway, Control Shift, select lasso, grab these muscles here. Hey, perfect. Let's go ahead and let's split those off. And we'll Dynamesh those. That automatically close our holes. Say delete hidden. And then we've got our leg muscles here we can continue to refine. Arm muscles, we've already kind of gone going. Actually, we've already done the arm muscles. Back muscles we've already got. Skull muscles, we just need to add a couple more things. So you know what, we don't even need this anymore. Delete it out of our scene. We do still have this piece in there. So I'm gonna steal, this one's kind of important. So I'm gonna say, let's do a quick extract. And sometimes if you don't even want to deal with extract, accept any of this, just go in here and just Dynamesh this result and then just move it around. So this is your chewing muscle. You know what? Why not? Why not look at stuff? Muscles back here. So your masseter is going to go from where you'd expect your jaw muscle and then tucks up inside. There's a little cavity underneath your zygomatic that it fits into. So that's going to be that direction of that masseter layer. Easy. And of course, if you want to, ZRemesh half, that size down to 0, just to kind of clean up some of these things, make them a little bit easier to. Oh boy, weird stuff's happening. Yeah, I don't need that. Just close. So, I don't know. I think we're done here. We got it far enough. Cool. How to make fingerless combat gloves with knuckle pads. Can you show a brief demonstration, please? Well, that's an easy one. If my keyboard will allow me, we can try Tool Demo Soldier. So here's your knuckleless, fingerless gloves, and if you want to put pads on here, insert mesh brush, sculpt something out in ZRemesh. Basically everything we've already done. Can I use Alt? Yes. Sorry, my computer's going nuts. Control Shift, grab the hand, delete hidden, shush, delete lower, delete hidden, ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0. So here's some gloves geometry. Let's go ahead and polish that border. Masking, mask our open border, invert that. I just want to smooth that out so that when I ZRemesh, it does a decent job. So here's your combat gloves. We don't want fingers, right? So delete hidden, close holes, maybe do a little inflate, and then the knuckles are just insert mesh brushes. So there's your fingerless gloves. And I hope this kept streaming because it's hard to tell what I've been hitting because my keyboard is thoroughly messed up. So anyway, thanks everybody. I can't hold down shift. I tried. Take it easy and catch you.